but it's truly a delight for me to be here today. It's my first time presenting at Whalefest, my first time presenting as the superintendent. And in the past, superintendents have presented here at Whalefest, and they focused primarily on Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. My presentation today will be a little different. I want to focus on the 50-year anniversary for the National Marine Sanctuary system, and focus on whale conservation in the other sites within the system, including Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. Okay, so my presentation today is in 3 chunks. I'll be focusing on the celebration and what the system is about in general, so you'll be hearing about the entire system. And I will be talking about whale conservation here on the West Coast and across the system, and looking at the threats that whales face today, principally whale ship strikes, entanglements. You just heard that Peggy Stapp, that's what she's doing today. Ocean noise and climate change. And I won't be focusing so much on climate change, but you might hear a thread that climate change is mediating some of these threats. And then the tools that we use to address these threats, which include whale research, acoustic monitoring, marine spatial planning, outreach and education. It's very important to do that, to raise awareness about these threats. We have citizen science programs that raise stewardship, and we also have novel partnerships. And I want to emphasize that it really takes a village. As you heard in Dan's presentation, it takes a lot of entities, a lot of groups, and that support and collaborating and coordinating with various entities, academics, different agencies, that continues as we manage the sanctuaries and as we carry out these programs to reduce the threats to sanctuaries and to whales. And then at the end, I will talk about how you can join in celebrating the 50th anniversary and the 30th anniversary of Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. So 50 years ago, Congress came up with some great ideas, and those ideas really were in response to some of those large incidents that happened, the oil spills. And they took action to protect the nation's coasts and ocean by passing some major legislation in 1972, which were the Clean Water Act, the Coastal Zone Management Act, which in Dan's talk, he talked about the Coastal Act, it's one and the same, the Marine Mammal Protection Act, but also the National Marine Sanctuaries Act, which I think was the best idea that they passed in 1972. And this is an act that combines sort of these actions to provide comprehensive, coordinated management. What is really unique about sanctuaries is we don't just focus on one aspect of the marine environment like water, or fish, or whales. We look at all of these parts of the ecosystem and all of the users, and we come up with comprehensive and coordinated management, and which I think is very important and is very unique what we do as the National Marine Sanctuaries. And that act was passed in 1972 on October 23. So what are National Marine Sanctuaries? Well, in the act, you can read that they are areas of the marine environment with special conservation, recreational, ecological, historical, cultural, archaeological, or aesthetic qualities. I think most of you think of as a National Marine Sanctuary as protecting natural resources, ecosystems, biodiversity. But we also have within our act the protection of cultural resources such as shipwrecks, maritime history, but also cultural resources or cultural connections, principally those with indigenous communities. And we do that by raising awareness through education and outreach. We also improve the management through research and monitoring, and the research and monitoring is really focused on the resources of the sanctuaries, the purpose of the sanctuary, so it'll be different depending on the reasons why the sanctuary was designated. We also help coastal economies by promoting and protecting healthy resources and facilitating public uses compatible with resource protection. And I want to remind you that we talk a lot about the resources inside of the sanctuary and the protection, but we in the last decade, or more focused in the last 5 years, really want to promote sustainable uses in the sanctuary. The sanctuary is a place to be enjoyed, whether it's through boating, surfing, sailing, diving. Diving's really great here in Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, and through stewardship activities, and which I will get to when I talk about the Hawaiian Islands Humpback Whale National Marine Sanctuary. So where are these national marine sanctuaries? So on this map, you can see that they are all across our nation, from the Pacific Island region to the East Coast. And on this map, you can see that the round white dots with the purple circle around it, those portray the sanctuaries that are designated. And in the Pacific Island region, you can see to the south, we have the national marine sanctuaries at American Samoa. And we also have Hawaiian Islands Humpback Whale National Marine Sanctuary. And then the national marine monuments are the triangles, the white triangles. And we have Papahanaumakuakea around the northwestern Hawaiian Islands, and Rose Atoll Marine National Monument around the American Samoa Sanctuary. And then the yellow squares, those signify sanctuary designations that are in process right now. And Papahanaumakuakea is in the process of going through becoming a national marine sanctuary, so converting from a marine national monument to a marine national marine sanctuary. We're going to skip over the West Coast and go to the Great Lakes region. There you can see we have Thunder Bay and Wisconsin Shipwreck Coast National Marine Sanctuary. The last one was the most recent designation. And there is a designation process occurring right now for Lake Ontario. Along the eastern shoreline, from north to south, we have Stillwater Bank, Mallows Bay, Potomac River, the Monitor, Gray's Reef, and Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary. And then in the Gulf, there's Flower Gardens National Marine Sanctuary. There is also a designation happening at Lake Ontario. And the sanctuaries around the Great Lakes, they are really mostly focused on shipwrecks. And then if we come back to the West Coast where we are right now, you heard from Dan, from north to south, we have Olympic Coast National Marine Sanctuary, Greater Farallones, Cordell Bank, our Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary, and just to the south of Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, we're going through the process of designating the proposed Chumash Heritage National Marine Sanctuary. So those are the 15 national marine sanctuaries and 2 marine national monuments, and we have 3 designation processes taking place right now. So let's start with the first national marine sanctuary where there is some concerted whale conservation occurring. That's Stillwater Bank National Marine Sanctuary on the East Coast. This sanctuary protects an important whale feeding ground and a world-renowned whale watching destination. In fact, whale watching started at Stillwater Bank in the 1970s on the East Coast. So it's located just east of Boston, the Boston Harbor. It's within sort of the Cape Cod area. And it is an area that has had, for at least 4 centuries, some pretty active commercial fishing. And so you can imagine, with the number of boats that have been traveling through that area for 4 centuries, that there are also a number of shipwrecks within that national marine sanctuary. The sanctuary was designated in 1992, and it is about 842 square miles. So this sanctuary is also celebrating its 30th anniversary. It was designated on November 4 in 1992. So this is an area that attracts various whale species to come and feed. It's a very productive feeding ground. It has humpback whales, fin whales, sei whales, and minke whales, and then the North Atlantic right whales, which are critically endangered. There are currently less than 350 individuals that are part of this population, so highly endangered. What are the activities that this sanctuary carries out to better conserve the whales in its boundaries? So they have what we are calling shifting shipping lanes. And so you can see in this slide, you can see that through research, they figured out that whales, which is represented by these red columns that are rising, that whale densities were occurring on areas that were over sand, because North Atlantic right whales enjoy eating a resource that lives along the sand lances, that's what they're called. And the area where you don't see these higher densities of whales is where there's mud and gravel. And you can then also see that the shipping lanes for the entrances and exits to the Boston Harbor, represented by, to the left, the red lollipop, but on the right-hand side, the map, it's the dark lollipop, the lines that are the solid lines. So you can see that those shipping lanes were crossing an area of high-density whale, so right here. And I'll wait till I get to the... So what they did is they worked with the U.S. Coast Guard and other partners, the National Marine Fisheries Service, and the shipping industry to move those lanes, those shipping lanes, so that they would not co-occur with high-density whale habitat. And so what you're basically doing is you're moving high-density ship traffic away from the high-density whales. And they did this in 2007, and by just moving the shipping lanes to the north and making them narrower, they were able to reduce whale ship strike from happening by 81% for all baleen whales, and for the North Atlantic right whales by 58%. So this is an example of marine spatial planning, and this is what we do at Sanctuaries. We've used this methodology for a number of resource protection issues. So what else do they do? So along the East Coast, Northern Atlantic right whales travel along the entire East Coast, and there are a number of what they call seasonal management areas along the East Coast. Within these seasonal management areas, there are regulations for ships 65 feet or larger to reduce their speed to 10 knots. These happen seasonally. In each area, it's sort of a different time of year, but it really coincides with when there are high densities of whales. Principally, the North Atlantic right whales, as I told you, are critically endangered. So the seasonal management area that overlaps with the Stillwater Bank, they have a very high compliance with the seasonal management area because of the efforts that the Sanctuary carries out. They have a corporate responsibility program, and within that program, they send letters to the shipping companies and let them know how well they have been complying with those regulations. And they send them sort of a report card that lays out a report card of you get an A, a B, or C, depending on how often and the duration that the ships within that shipping company complied with this regulation. And for the seasonal management area in Stillwater Bank, in 2021, they had from 107 companies representing 173 ships, they reached 86% compliance. And this is the highest compliance for a regulation. You would think that it would be higher because this is not a request. This is not voluntary. This is a regulation. The other thing that they do at Stillwater, the whale research that is focused on using tags that they attach with these suction cups, and you can see them doing that in the video. And what these tags do is they help illustrate where the whales are, not just in horizontal space, but also in vertical space. And they were able to figure out how these whales create these bubble nets to concentrate the food that they then, when the food gets concentrated, they use gulp feeding to feed more effectively and efficiently. And then the other research that they do is they use acoustics. You'll be hearing more about acoustic monitoring later in the presentation. But with acoustics, and you can see that in the little video graphic with the shiny dots, you can see that North Atlantic right whales are represented by the small dots, and these are the vocalizations that the whales make, and they probably use it for communicating where food is, communicating about breeding potentially, and they're being overwhelmed by the sound signal produced by ships, and those are those big flares. So we're really trying to understand more how human-induced sound interacts with the sounds that whales use to communicate with each other. And then finally, they have this great sister sanctuary program that spans the entire migratory route of humpback whales. And they have a sister sanctuary program with sanctuaries from other nations in the Dominican Republic, the Dutch Antilles, and the French Antilles to better protect whales along their entire migratory route. And the Sailwagon Bank is in this program with them. They use they coordinate research, they coordinate education efforts, and this is really a great way to help better conserve humpback whales in the Atlantic along their entire migratory route. Now we're going to switch to another island, the aptly named Hawaiian Islands Humpback Whale National Marine Sanctuary, which protects the winter breeding, calving, and nursing habitat for the largest North Pacific population of humpback whales. And here you can see on the map that the sanctuary is really centered around the waters portrayed in white on that map around Maui, Molokai, and Lanai, but it also covers a small portion of the island of Oahu on the north shore, and the same for Kauai, also on the north shore, and along the northwestern shores of the Big Island of Hawaii. And this sanctuary was designated also in 1992 on November 4. So I wonder if President Bush was also trying to get votes from the Hawaiian Islands, just hearing you say that. So this sanctuary covers 1,370 square miles, and this sanctuary has a unique management arrangement. It is co-managed by the state of Hawaii through the Department of Aquatic Resources, and you can see that I included their logo on these slides. So this sanctuary is really well known for its entanglement conservation, and it coordinates a large whale entanglement response effort throughout the main Hawaiian Islands and globally. And I say this because the research has really been pioneered, or the work has really been pioneered by one of their staff members named Ed Lyman. He has come out here and trained various entanglement response people, and he does this globally. He has pioneered some very effective methods for disentanglement. It is not a trivial job to do. It's very dangerous. These are large animals. It's dangerous for the people who are doing it, but it's also something that you want to do because you're trying to save the whale, and it's dangerous for the animals. So since 2003, they freed 36 whales, and representing more than 15,000 feet of gear. And a lot of this gear is a line that is attached to fishing gear in the water that buoys are attached to. And these whales arrive in the Hawaiian Islands having picked up gear along the way, maybe starting in Hawaii, and you can imagine that once you pick up one piece of gear, it's more easy to pick up another piece of gear, and these animals aren't just covered in one piece of line, but multiple pieces of line. So Hawaii really has pioneered very effective ways to disentangle whales. Their research is focused on acoustic monitoring, and they use the acoustic monitoring to better understand when the whales will arrive. Sound travels very well in water. The whales know this. They've evolved to use this environment to communicate with each other over long distances, and it's easier to track when the whales arrive via the acoustics rather than using visual confirmation, for all of the reasons that I just explained. But they also use vessel-based surveys off the west coast of Maui, and this is using visual confirmation. They also have a premier event, which is happening right now. Well, not exactly right now. This is the season. They do the ocean count, and this is to promote public awareness about humpback whales, the sanctuary, and shore-based whale watching in Hawaii. And this is an event that visitors to Hawaii can participate in, locals participate in. It's an event that happens during the height of whale presence on the islands in January, February, and March. It's the last Saturday of those months. So I think they're going to have their last one next week. They just celebrated their silver anniversary last year, 25 years. This year will be the 26th year. This is an example of a long-term data set. They are highly valuable. If you talk to any scientist, they're like gold having a long-term data set. And they annually track or tally whale sightings and document their behavior. And they use this data to supplement the data that they collect with scientists. So now we're going to get to the West Coast. I'm going to be talking about Olympic Coast separate from the California sanctuaries. So Olympic Coast National Marine Sanctuary protects a productive upwelling zone and supports the treaty rights of the coastal treaty tribes, the Hoh, the Makah, the Quinault, and the Quileute. And this sanctuary is off of the Olympic Peninsula, aptly named. And it was designated in 1994, and it's about 3,300 square miles. You can see here some pictures of the beautiful animals and flora that live inside the boundaries of the sanctuary. So this sanctuary puts a lot of effort into tracking humpback whales and the southern resident killer whale population. And this is a population, this is the first time I'm going to be talking about a toothed whale instead of a baleen whale. But this is a population of whales that is also highly endangered. And the National Marine Fisheries Service expanded their critical habitat from beyond Puget Sound to also include areas along the coast, from Olympic Coast coastline down to our area here in Monterey Bay, because this population of southern resident killer whales, they feed on salmon, and these are areas that you can find salmon. And they also have, and so I was talking about the killer whales, that is on the slide to the right. The habitat for humpback whales has also expanded from Olympic Coast National Marine Sanctuary down to Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary. And you can see within the boundaries of the Monterey Bay, the Olympic Coast National Marine Sanctuary is the Navy range called the Quinault Range. And what this sanctuary does, Olympic Coast really works and coordinates with the Navy to ensure that the testing and training that they do will not harm or impact the critical habitat of these two species. They also do some acoustic work, and there's this project that we have been doing with the Navy called Sank Sound. And by looking at this slide, you can see that we have put out hydrophones, and these are sound receiving devices to better characterize the soundscape of sanctuaries. We really want to better understand what is the sound environment inside of sanctuaries, not only the sound that animals are producing or how animals are using the sound, but we also want to understand human-induced sound and how it is impacting some of these animals. And the Sank Sound hydrophones are signified by the pink dots, And you can see that at Olympic Coast, they put them in 4 different habitats or locations. The 2 at the top are very close to the traffic separation scheme. The third one, sort of in the middle there, is right in the Quinault range because they want to better understand what kinds of sounds are being produced by the Navy Quinault range. And then there's also one further to the south in a more quiet habitat to sort of see what are the differences. We also have a project that we've been doing with NOAA called the Noise Reference Stations, and that is signified by this yellow dot here. And it's a little bit further offshore, and we have several of these noise reference stations in other sanctuaries. And the Sank Sound Project is a project that started in 2018, and it is being carried out not only at Olympic Coast, but also here in Monterey Bay, Channel Islands, Hawaiian Islands, Humpback Whale, Stellwagen. These are all sanctuaries that have very active whale conservation, because understanding how human-induced sound impacts whales is a big part of this project. Olympic Coast also does education outreach. This is where we started working with the Whale Trail organization. And this is an effort to use whale conservation and shore-based whale watching. We have whale trail signs right here in Monterey Bay, along the shores of the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. We're in the process of putting out a new sign this year, just around Silomar. And this is a signage that helps educate people about the types of whales that are out there, and how you can enjoy shore-based whale watching. And you don't have to go out on a whale watch boat. I mean, go out and use a whale watch boat, that's fun, but you can also just do it from shore. And then they also have used this blow-up model of a humpback whale called Big Mama, and this is a great opportunity for kids to be involved in ocean conservation and to teach them more about it. It's sort of like how Pinocchio, you can enter the whale, sort of like the story of Pinocchio being swallowed by the sperm whale. So this is really a great way to get kids involved with ocean conservation. Now I'm going to quickly go through the California sites altogether. So we have Cordell Bank National Marine Sanctuary. It protects a diverse community of inverts, fishes, and marine mammals on a rocky bank. The bank rises to the surface of about 115 feet. And as Dan said, it sits right there on the edge of the shelf. And this picture here is not fake. Hi, Sam. It shows just the amazing biodiversity and abundance on the Cordell Bank. You can see a number of different rockfishes, juvenile rockfishes, but also just these beautiful deep sea corals and sponges. The sanctuary was designated in 1989. It was previously 529 square feet, but it was expanded to 1,286 square feet to include the shelf area just west of the bank, and also this canyon that you see to the north, Bodega Canyon. And the reason I'm going to be talking about these California sanctuaries together is because we work together on all of the whale conservation work that we do, and it wouldn't make sense for me to talk about the same program for each sanctuary. So then we also have the Greater Farallones National Marine Sanctuary. This sanctuary was designated in 1981. It originally was 1,370 square miles, and it was expanded at the same time as Cordell Bank in 2015. And you can see that the Cordell Bank National Marine Sanctuary basically hugs, the Greater the Farallon Islands. And the reason we expanded it to the north was to protect this unique upwelling zone that goes from Greater Farallones, or from the Farallon Islands all the way up to Point Arena. And this is an area that protects important feeding grounds of seabirds. It has one of the largest seabird rookeries in the United States, and it protects marine mammals and white sharks. So that's a little different. Go back. For Monterey Bay, you already heard Dan talk to you more about Monterey Bay, but we have the second largest sanctuary. The largest is Papahanaumokuakea. And we include also a seamount, Davidson Seamount, and we protect a diversity of habitats, fishes, invertebrates, sea turtles, birds, and marine mammals. And we were designated on September 18, 1992, and the current size is 6,094 square miles. Finally, Channel Islands manage the first network of marine reserves on the West Coast, protecting biodiversity and endangered species. And you can see that the network of marine reserves is portrayed by these red squares surrounding the islands. The Channel Islands represents or protects 5 islands and 2 offshore rocks. And it was designated in 1980. The size is 1,470 square miles. So the way that we protect whales in California, in the California National Marine Sanctuaries, is we address ship strikes through vessel speed reduction, and I'll get into how reducing speed also reduces ocean noise and air pollution, but also by shifting shipping lanes, similar to what Stellwagen did. And we address entanglements by advising a fisherman working group, because a lot of the entanglements are with fishing gear, by testing out novel gear, and by helping with disentanglements using our research vessel, the Fulmar. And we track whales through research and monitoring with our Axis cruises. And I'm going to encourage all of you to visit your app store and to get the mobile application Ocean Alert. That is also how we collect data on whale presence and densities, and tracking also when there is a whale in distress that is entangled. So these national marine sanctuaries on the West Coast in California, the whales that come to the sanctuaries, they come to feed. And they feed on northern anchovies, krill, sardines, Pacific sardines. And when they're here, they will get struck by by ships, I'm sorry. They get struck by ships. And ship strikes are the #1 source of human-caused mortality for blue whales, and the #2 cause for humpbacks. And through research, we know that one of the principal ways to reduce the lethality of a ship strike, you won't avoid a ship strike altogether, is by asking ships to slow down, similar to what they do on the East Coast with Stellwagen Bank. But what's different here in California is we do not have a regulation. We are asking the shipping companies to do this voluntarily. These are voluntary speed reduction requests, and they happen around the shipping lanes, the traffic separation schemes at the entrances to the San Francisco Bay and to the entrances of Long Beach and LA Harbor, and within the Santa Barbara Channel. So we have these vessel speed reduction efforts in 2 areas, to the north of us and to the south of us. And we ask ships 300 gross tons and larger to reduce their speed to 10 knots. And this is a seasonal management area. It's and we have focused on having it be from May 1st through November 15th up around the San Francisco Bay area, and from May 15 through November 15 around the Channel Islands. And the way that we notify the ships that this seasonal management area is in place is we work with the U.S. Coast Guard, and we issue local notice to mariners. We talk with them via their ship radios, and we work really well with the U.S. Coast Guard. And we have a similar program in place as Stellwagen Bank, their corporate responsibility program, where we send letters to the shipping companies letting them know how well they cooperated. I'm not going to use the word compliance because this is cooperation, because it's voluntary. And then the results for our vessel speed reduction are that the cooperation has increased from 2017 to 2020. You can see for the San Francisco Bay Area, it went from 45% to 64%. And I just got news yesterday that for 2021, around the San Francisco Bay Area, it decreased to 63%. And in Southern California, it has increased tremendously. From 2017, it was 18% to 54%, and now with the results in from 2021, that's 59%. Another way that we try and create more buy-in is we have an incentive-based program called Protecting Blue Whales and Blue Skies. And this is a program where we try to motivate these companies, and the companies that we're trying to motivate are car carriers and container ship companies. And we try to incentivize them through public relations and through money to reduce their speed. And by using this program, that is how we were able to really increase compliance. And this is a novel partnership because the funding that we receive to help support this program comes from the air quality control districts. And they want to see ships slowing down because it reduces harmful pollutants being emitted by the ships. For us, we want to see it happen because it reduces lethal ship strikes, and it also reduces ocean noise. So it's a win-win-win. And then in this slide, you can see more about the program. You can see that it started out in 2014 with 7 companies, and it has grown to now including the area to the north, where the traffic separation scheme is for the entrance to San Francisco Bay. So now we have a program that isn't just 7 companies, but it is grown to 16 companies, actually 18 companies, including 2021. And it has grown from 14 vessels to 495 or more. And then using the data from last year, we are capturing 90% of the container ship traffic. And they are helping to cooperate with our voluntary vessel speed reduction. There's reduction in greenhouse gas emissions from 535 metric tons to probably now more than 25,000 metric tons. And then at the bottom there, the most important metric, I think, is that we've reduced the reduction in the risk of fatal ship strikes by 35%. So let me go back, 35%. And again, we could not do any of this without our partnerships. You can see here the logos of the various air quality control districts, our associations and foundations, the one that Dan is on the board of, the National Marine Sanctuary Foundation, the California Marine Sanctuary Foundation, and you can see that we work closely with researchers to consult and consultants to independently verify the benefits of the program. We work a lot with Point Blue Conservation Science. They are our major partner with our access cruises, and the Whale Acoustics from Scripps. We're getting to the end here. So I was hoping that Peggy Stapp would be here to talk more about the entanglement, but she's doing more important work being out there. But from this slide, you can see that whale entanglement really became a problem in 2015, and it remained a very big problem through 2018. And this is what I meant with climate change. The reason that there were more entanglements, there's this huge rise in entanglement, is because in those years we were dealing with the warm water events, and there was the warm water blob that was basically pushing the food source of these whales more close to shore. And by pushing it close to shore, the food source was overlapping with the crab pot fishery. The crab pots, as you know, they have line in the water with buoys signifying where the pots are, and whales were becoming entangled primarily in crab pot fishing gear. And on this slide, you can also see that the main, or the whale species that is becoming entangled is largely humpback whales. So what do we do to address this entanglement? We have staff who are on the whale, the crab fishing group with the crab fishermen. We provide them data on whale presence so that they can do better risk assessments. We have a gear innovation program with funding from the Ocean Protection Council. So we're working with fishermen to create novel gear that have less line in the water, so less entanglements. And we also participate in whale disentanglement efforts using our research vessel, FOMAR. And we have several staff who are have some type of certification to help people like Peggy Stab. Then we also just finished a new whale watching guidelines that uses very simple graphics to help people understand how they can do responsible wildlife viewing. And it really focuses on keep a 100-yard distance and don't encircle the whale. If you're going to have more than one vessel out there looking at the whale, whether it's a whale watching boat or a private boater, don't encircle the whale. It just stresses them out even more. And it's important to help an entangled whale by calling the entanglement reporting hotline. You can see the number there. You should monitor from a safe distance, again, 100 yards. Take a photograph. Use our Ocean Alert app and upload that information. The folks who are going out for the disentanglement will thank you because we see the whale at one point and then because they travel, we can't then find it to do the disentanglement after. It takes a while for us to mobilize and get out there with the equipment. So having citizen scientists using that mobile app and recording where the location of the whale throughout time will help with locating the whale. And stay in your boat. Never attempt to do the entanglement effort on your own. Okay, so how can you help us celebrate? Well, one thing is you're all here. You're helping us celebrate by being here with during Whalefest. We are also going to have later in the year, we're going to have an event that we're partnering with Shared Adventures. This is a group that helps bring out people with special needs out into the sanctuary to enjoy the sanctuary. And on July 9th, we are going to focus on recreational fishing off of the Santa Cruz Wharf. We also will have a stamp unveiling with the U.S. Postal Service. What is a stamp, right? It's that old technology, but people still use them. I go to the post office. Maybe you could ask for that stamp, that collection of stamps after August 5th, and we will have that unveiling at the Sanctuary Exploration Center in Santa Cruz. We also have a Coastal Cleanup Day on September 17th. We just had one with Janaea Kelly and the local foundation. I think it's going to happen with the Santa Cruz Warriors again, right, Janaea? Yes? And we will have, I just have confirmation, we will have Sanctuary Fest on the Santa Cruz Wharf, a family-friendly event on the Santa Cruz Wharf and at our Sanctuary Exploration Center Plaza. We got confirmation that we can do it. We will be partnering with the Aloha Outriggers in the morning, and our event will be in the afternoon. But we see some cross-pollination, and we will probably, because as I highlighted to you, it's also the 30th anniversary for Hawaiian Islands humpback whales, so we hope to get some materials from them to highlight that sanctuary within the system and their 30th celebration. And Janaea has some really fun things planned. She's the director. Janaea activities. I think we're getting to the end. So I just found out this week that Netflix series will be released called Our Great National Parks. It's not just the national parks within the USA, it's the great national parks globally. This is a Netflix series narrated by President Obama, and the only ocean episode is set here in our Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. So very exciting that it's coming out on April 13th. So I think most of you have Netflix. If you don't, get it. And that'll be really fun to watch. And I hope you've noticed that throughout my presentation, I've been using these very beautiful slides with Save Spectacular. You can access these slides. You can use them as your backdrop for a Zoom call, but I really hope that we're not going to have to do more Zoom calls into the future. But you could still use them for your social media, Facebook, Twitter, and we have a media toolkit that you can access on our website, the Office of National Marine Sanctuaries website. And I will just show you a couple more pretty pictures. Well, that was the last one. And I can take any questions. And I won't take too many questions because I think Sam Farr is here, so I would like to give him a chance to talk. Okay.
Once a staffer, always a staffer.
Yes, that's what I told them. You missed that, but I said that, Sam. So I'll take, yes, go ahead.
So Lisa, 20, 30 years ago, the Department of Defense came up with techniques to identify enemy submarines with acoustic blasts. They did not bother to follow the National Environmental Policy Act and analyze the impacts. And the Supreme Court said, gosh, that's just fine. Are they doing any more of that?
I cannot confirm or deny. But I do know that the Navy has become more environmentally aware. And there are places where they do test and train. But in a National Marine Sanctuary, as part of our regulations, we do have we try to grandfather in some of their activities. And we also have, as part of the National Marine Sanctuaries Act, we have a consultation requirement, and the Navy is required to consult with us. And that's what I meant with what the Olympic Coast does with the Navy range, the Connaught Navy range. They require the Navy there to consult with them on their testing and training activities. And the Olympic Coast National Marine Sanctuary really tries hard to work with the Navy to minimize any impacts. And that's what we continue to do as National Marine Sanctuaries. And I hope that you understood that the Sank Sound project is really funded by the Navy, and it's a partnership with us and the Navy. We try to find these win-wins and not have it be so adversarial. But the Department of Defense is really the big dog in the room when it comes to federal agencies. I hope I explained that adequately. Any other questions? Or we could just also segue to Sam Farr, and then I'll be here for the rest of the day. And as the new sanctuary superintendent, you can email me and ask me any questions, and it's really a delight to be here today. Thank you.